Thank you for joining us to mark the Holocaust Memorial Day. Your attendance is part of a national picture where thousands of activities taking place across the UK, supported by the Holocaust Memorial Trust. We know that everyone who attends the Holocaust Memorial Day events learn more, emphasises more deeply, and goes on to take action to build a better future. Holocaust Memorial Day is an international day on the 27th of January to remember the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, alongside millions of other people killed in Nazi persecution and in subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. The Holocaust threatened the fabric of civilization, and genocides must be resisted every day. Our world often feels fragile and vulnerable, and we cannot be complacent. Even in the UK, prejudice and the language of hatred must be challenged by us all. We meet today at a time when the UK is divided, with many of us experiencing uncertainty, fear and grief. Increasing levels of denial, division and misinformation in today's world mean we must remain vigilant against hatred and identity-based hostility. Yet we know tens of thousands of people are coming together to mark the Holocaust Memorial Day, to help those in need to build a better future. Communities are standing in solidarity and experiencing togetherness even while we are apart. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day 2021 is Be the Light in the Darkness. It encourages everyone to reflect the depths of humanity can sink to, but also the ways individuals and communities resisted the darkness to be the light before, during and after genocide. Be the light in the darkness is an affirmation to call to action for everybody marking Holocaust Memorial Day. We can all stand in solidarity, we can all choose to be the light in the darkness. Holocaust Memorial Day presents an opportunity when people from all backgrounds come together to learn from the past and create a better future. It serves us as a reminder that all of us not only have the ability to resist the forces of hatred, we have a responsibility to do so. That includes everyone who has joined us today, and is why we're asking each of you to be the light in the darkness.
A poem titled Fear by Eva Pickova. The poem is preserved in a copy turned over to the State Jewish Museum in Prague by Dr. R. Feder in 1955. It is signed at the bottom, 12-year-old Eva Pickova from Nymburk. Eva Pickova was born in Nymburk on May 15, 1929, deported to Terezin, a Nazi concentration camp, on April 16, 1942, and perished in Auschwitz on December 18, 1943. Today the ghetto knows a different fear. Close in its grip, death wills an icy scythe, and sickness spreads a terror in its wake. The victims of its shadow weep and writhe. Today's father's heartbeat tells his fright, and mothers bend their heads into their hands. Now children choke and die with typhus here. A bitter tax is taken from their hands. My heart still beats inside my breast, while friends depart for other worlds. Perhaps it's better, who can say, than watching this to die today. No, no, my God, we want to live, not watch our numbers melt away. We want to have a better world. We want to work, we must not die.
In the name of God, the infinitely good, the most merciful. All praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. We are remembering today the victims and survivors of the Holocaust and those who have died in many other genocides and conflicts since. Human capacity to unleash the most horrific violence and destruction has not diminished since the Holocaust, and neither, it seems, has humanity learned any lessons from the tragedy of the Holocaust. We live in hope in these testing times for hope is a reflection of one's faith and illuminates their hearts. So let's reflect upon and seek the Lord's infinite mercy and blessings. Lord of the worlds, enlighten our hearts amidst the dark times. Lord, help us to see the other as our brother or sister. Lord, where there is hatred, misunderstanding, and mistrust, help us to replace that with love, understanding, and trust. Lord, help us and strengthen us to stand united against those who propagate hate and violence towards others. Lord, help us and strengthen us to stand united against all forms of violent extremism. Lord, help us to live by the values that are inherent within our traditions, values of compassion for the needy, love for the neighbor, and respect for one another. Lord, increase us in love for and mercy towards the sick, hungry, poverty-stricken, the lonely and oppressed wherever they are. Lord, help us and strengthen us to do all we can to promote understanding, respect, and mutual love for all. Lord, strengthen our hope and resolve to get through this dreadful pandemic. Lord, bless our NHS staff, the emergency and frontline workers, and all those who are striving to provide a service to your creation. Lord, bless this great city of ours and protect our beautiful country from all that and all those who seek to do us harm. Amen.
We Remember Them by Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Riemer. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
It's been an odd year, to say the least. For most of it, the COVID pandemic has dominated our lives, not only in the way that we live, but also in the way that we think. It consumes almost every moment. If half of a news programme is taken up with the numbers of people who've died or got sick, with concerns about the NHS, with the new regulations imposed by government, where is the time or the brain space to think about other things? So perhaps we're not giving our full attention to news items about all the other matters in the world that are causes for concern, including distant wars which are still going on in places like Yemen and Central Africa, and genocide in, for example, Myanmar and still in Darfur. This lack of attention caused by COVID makes the Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration even more important this year. Originally implemented to educate young people on what happened in Europe during the Second World War, its remit has now become much wider than that. It's not just for young people, but for everyone. And we no longer limit our commemoration to the 6 million Jews and 5 million Gypsies, disabled people, homosexuals and others during the Holocaust. We use the day to reflect the continuing use of genocide in the world today and how it can be stopped. If you'll forgive a personal note, I get quite worried about the way that the word genocide is bandied around today. Genocide is not just murder committed on a grand scale, and neither is it the direct consequence of war. It is the deliberate effort by one group of people, usually a nation, to eliminate another group. It doesn't apply to killing an enemy in a war situation. It refers to the deliberate persecution and killing of everyone in the victim group, male and female, old and young, strong and weak. I think that the tragedy of genocide is not just what happens at the time, but the legacy it bequeaths to the future. So this would include the effect on the perpetrators, their families and civil society, and how they face the consequences in their ethics, their behaviour and national development. And for the victims, the legacy is the absence of all the generations who would have lived, worked and had families in following times. Not just the adults and the children who died, but their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the potential of all the musicians and doctors, artists and scientists, and just plain ordinary folk who could have contributed to the benefit of humankind. Over the past few years, I've become increasingly concerned that although the yearly commemoration of Holocaust Memorial Day is a focus for remembering genocide, it has not produced a significant change in our individual behaviours. For example, towards people who may be considered strangers or different. And as a nation, we haven't become more generous towards refugees who are fleeing from war or genocide. But if anything good can come out of COVID, looking back at the past year, the pandemic has produced some glimmers of light. Locally, we've been drawn together in the kind of street communities that we're told existed in previous generations. Over and over again, I hear of people supporting each other through lockdown by helping with shopping for those who can't go out or who were shielding, by dropping by regularly to check up on those living alone, by posting notes through doors to inform people about ways to help, and of course, clapping for the NHS every week. And that seems to have happened whoever lives in a street. And at the opposite end of the scale, governments all over the Western world are currently calling out China for its treatment of the Uyghurs, hoping in some way to ameliorate an apparent move towards genocide. This year, the theme for Holocaust Memorial Day is Be the Light in the Darkness. Not just about remembering, but about doing something about it. And that, I believe, is each person's responsibility. We can each make a contribution through individual acts of kindness, through calling out bullying or victimisation wherever we see it, through correcting misinformation wherever we find it, through challenging overt prejudice and stereotyping. Speaking out is not always safe or easy. Martin Niemöller, a German Christian pastor who was himself imprisoned by the Nazis, wrote about our individual responsibility for speaking out, for being a light in the darkness. I've used it before on Holocaust Memorial Day, but I make no apology for using it again. It's particularly appropriate in the context of this year's theme. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. This is a Yahrzeit or year time candle. Left alone, it burns for 24 hours to commemorate the life of a departed soul. In the Jewish tradition, a Yahrzeit candle is lit once a year on the anniversary of someone's death. Today we're lighting this candle to commemorate the lives of the 6 million Jews and 5 million others, principally gypsies, but also the disabled, homosexuals, political opponents and some people of colour. For many of us, it also serves as a memorial to victims of other genocides and carries our hopes for a better future.
On this Holocaust Memorial Day, we pray for courage and honesty to look at the past and the present and to learn what needs to be learned. For compassion to weep with those who weep, for grace to learn what it is to be loved and to learn what it is to love. For strength to stand up for what is right and to turn away from what is wrong. For wisdom to listen well and to speak well. Bless, O Lord, our city, and all who live, work and learn here, that we would indeed be the light in the darkness, that we would receive light and share light, that we would let the light shine, bringing welcome, comfort, hope and truth. Amen.